Although it's nearly too delicious for you, you must be hungry, right? If you started stealing meals from other people or taking things home when no one was looking, it would be embarrassing for you as a classmate. Emily Smith, suppressing her laughter, set a tray of sandwiches on my table. I was offered sandwiches at the reunion, while everyone else was served a full-course meal. Is it not unbelievable? The other students at the table laughed when Emily said those disparaging remarks. To what extent would they go to ridicule me? Thanks for the sandwiches, but it's not fun hanging around people who lack basic decency and empathy, so I'm heading out. I stated sardonically as I got up and took a sandwich. Emily's derisive voice yelled, "Don't worry about paying me for it," as I turned around and made my way out. I paid the same event and meal ticket as everyone else, but I was only able to have sandwiches instead of the entire dinner. They would humiliate me like this. She is deserving of a suitable penalty. I walked out of the arena, picturing the day when Emily may lose her temper. Noah Davis is my name. I am the CEO of a firm that produces and markets tiles both domestically and abroad, and I am in my 30s. Although the title of CEO may seem impressive, the path to this position has not been easy. My dad started the business, but one day when I was still in elementary school, he disappeared, leaving my mom and I alone. As a child, it took me a long time to put together the situation, but the main idea was that my dad was unable to pay off the enormous debts he had accrued. He therefore vanished, leaving it up to us to handle. Later, I learned that even my mother was unaware of the dire financial state of the business. She never imagined it would go this bad. I can still clearly recall the day before my father vanished. Study diligently and try your hardest. Someone will always notice if you give it your all, he remarked, giving me a shoulder pat. His words and demeanor made a deep impression on me because he had never discussed studying or the value of work before. His gaze was focused on a painting on the wall called My Future, even though he was speaking to me. In my school art class, I drew a painting of our 3-person family standing in front of the house I hoped to live in someday. That painting disappeared from the wall the day my dad went missing. It must have accompanied him. I didn't think that picture was very nicely drawn, but I've always wondered why he took it. You can't ask him now, though. I've succeeded in becoming a CEO after conquering those enigmas and obstacles. In my neighborhood, very few individuals are aware of the whole situation. The honest response from people who are familiar with my early years would likely be something along the lines of, "It's amazing how you managed to rebuild everything." I had been turning around my dad's business for almost 10 years when I saw a postcard in the mailbox one day. Printed on it was the name of my old middle school, which brought back memories. It was an invitation to a reunion. After a bit of deliberation, I checked the box to RSVP and sent it back. The hesitation came from unpleasant memories of my middle school days surfacing in my mind. Ever since my dad disappeared, my mom and I have been living each day in pure survival mode. Although the factory and its land were sold off, due to the machinery being surprisingly valuable, we were left with an idle factory and empty land that served no purpose. Meanwhile, our home had been completely stripped away. My mom, who had been a homemaker, started juggling several jobs to scrape by on meager wages. But even my honest and hard-working mom couldn't handle the crushing difficulty of our lives. Eventually, she slipped. One day, she shoplifted from a neighborhood store. The news spread like wildfire, and soon, I was labeled as the shoplifter's son by my classmates, who began giving me the cold shoulder. The worst offender was Emily Smith. She had always been admired for her good looks, intelligence, and popularity, even back then. "Noah, your mom's a thief, right?" she asked one day. "Some things went missing from the classroom recently, too. You didn't take them, right?" "No way. I didn't take anything," I protested. "Okay, I just wanted to make sure." Emily put on an exaggeratedly worried expression, and the other classmates chimed in, jeering. It's gotta be no. As a school kid, those were some of the hardest moments of my life. But the only way to clear my name was to live honestly and prove my innocence through my actions. Then, something happened that made things even worse. An eraser that had gone missing in the classroom turned up inside my bag. Hey, everyone, come here. Look what I found in Noel's bag. Emily's voice rang out. Her words caused a stir throughout the classroom. Of course, it drew attention since the eraser, a girl in our class had lost, was discovered in my bag by none other than Emily. Adding to the drama, she called out in a tone of urgency, claiming she'd found the culprit, which only amplified the commotion. What's going on? Echoed throughout the room. But I had no idea myself. During the previous break, I'd seen Emily touching my bag, so I nervously mustered up the courage to ask her hesitantly. I swear I didn't take it, but earlier, I saw Emily touching my bag. There wasn't anything in it then, right? At my words, Emily muttered, "That's disgusting." With tears welling in her eyes, she turned to the rest of the class. Are you saying I planted it in your bag, Noel? Trying to pin your guilt on the person who found it? That's just low. With that, Emily let out a sob. Seeing her like that, some girls nearby rushed to her side and began comforting her. Obviously, he's the thief. We're on Emily's side. There was no doubt in my mind that Emily had touched my bag an hour earlier. I didn't want to believe it, but it seemed like the only explanation was that she planted the eraser in my bag. I couldn't understand why she'd do something like that, but no one in the class was willing to hear me out anymore. The boys in the class had already started hurling taunts at me. Emily, held by a classmate who said, "Let's go to the nurse's office," glanced back at me for a moment. Her eyes carried a triumphant smirk, and I didn't miss it. Because of this past, I hesitated about attending the reunion. The bad memories resurfaced, but surely everyone had grown up by now. I also wondered if Emily even remembered what had happened back then. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to talk about the past, but maybe now I could get along with everyone. With that hope in mind, I waited anxiously for the day of the reunion. Before I knew it, the reunion day arrived amidst my busy schedule. Wearing a tailored suit, I headed to the hotel where the reunion was being held. Several of my former classmates were already laughing and chatting with flushed faces, probably having had a few drinks before the event. Not having any friends I could truly call close, I aimlessly wandered around the venue. Then I heard a familiar voice nearby, followed by my name being called. "Oh, is that you, Noel? You look so different now." When I turned around, it was indeed Emily who had called me. She had been beautiful even back in school, but now her beauty had only become more refined. She was dressed in what appeared to be an expensive gown, paired with high-end accessories. What hadn't changed since our childhood was not just her striking appearance. Even today, a group of people surrounded her, vying for her attention. "Do you remember Noel?" Emily said to the classmates around her in a tone that almost sounded mocking. Then she continued, "This guy once put someone's eraser in his own bag and tried to blame it on me. I wonder how he has the nerve to show up to the reunion." As Emily spoke, I could feel my body temperature drop sharply. So she did remember what had happened back then. But whether she genuinely believed her own words or her memory had been altered by years of telling lies, she was still saying things I had no recollection of doing. I thought we'd be able to understand each other now that we were adults, but it seemed I was terribly mistaken. "That's not true. I told you back then, too. I really didn't do it." Emily snorted at my words and replied in a cold voice, "Too late now. Even if you apologized, I wouldn't forgive you. By the way, what's with that outfit?" She scanned me from head to toe and then burst into laughter as she continued, "For someone who was so poor they couldn't even afford food, you're wearing quite the fancy suit. Even if you dress above your station, it's pathetic when the person inside is still useless. Either way, what do you do for a living?" As she looked at me with a mocking expression, I hesitated on how to answer. Even if I told her I was a CEO, she'd probably just say my company would go bankrupt soon and use it as another opportunity to insult me. After some deliberation, I decided to keep it simple and said, I work at a company that makes and installs tiles. Emily's reaction was predictably condescending. Tiles? She said with a smirk, covering her mouth as she added, so a subcontractor. Must be tough, but making things that people just step on really suits you. Keep making those nice, comfy tiles for us. By the way, my company's here. I'm in charge of a $30 million deal tomorrow. It's a lot of responsibility, you know. She said that proudly and handed me her business card. The card bore the name of a major real estate corporation. Did working for a publicly traded company make her think she was superior and justified in looking down on employees of subcontracting companies? We take pride in manufacturing and selling our products. Why should we have to endure being looked down on so much? Even if Emily still felt like a victim of the past, her words were far too much. I was about to leave the venue when she stopped me by saying, Are you trying to run away? I'm not running away. It's just that staying here with someone who refuses to listen to reason will only ruin both our moods. When I said that with conviction, Emily's face turned bright red with anger. Don't get cocky just because you're no. Fine, whatever. As one of the organizers of this reunion, it's my job to make sure even people like you have a good time. I don't know if you'll find anyone to talk to, but at least enjoy the food. With that, Emily walked off with her entourage in tow. Realizing the reunion wasn't going to be as enjoyable as I had hoped, I let out an involuntary sigh. An announcement played, saying the toast would begin shortly along with the start of the course meal. So I settled into the seat with my name on it. When the toast was called, I took a sip of beer, and somehow it lifted my spirits just a little. Apparently, the course meals here had a great reputation, with many couples celebrating anniversaries using this venue. Back in middle school, I hardly had any close friends to talk to, but with a drink in hand and some delicious food, I thought maybe I could get along with my table mates this time. As I waited for the food, imagining how things might go, my meal still didn't arrive. When the classmates sitting next to me started their second course, I realized something was definitely wrong. I called over a staff member and informed them that my course meal hadn't been served. The staff looked confused and simply said, We received specific instructions from the organizer. Standing up to confirm with the reunion organizer, I found Emily standing right next to me. In her hand was a plate of sandwiches. Even sandwiches are too good for you, but you must be hungry. It'd be embarrassing as your classmate if you started sneaking bites from other people's food or taking stuff home when no one's looking. Emily placed the sandwiches on my table and said this while stifling her laughter. Her words made the classmates at the same table chuckle. How far does she plan to go in mocking me? I stood up with the sandwiches in hand and said to Emily, Thanks for this, but it's not fun to hang out with someone who lacks consideration and empathy for others, so I'm leaving. Turning my back and heading for the exit, I heard Emily's mocking voice call out, Don't worry about paying me back for it. Even though I paid the same venue and meal fees as everyone else, I was stuck with sandwiches instead of the proper meal. She had humiliated me like this. Someone like her deserves an appropriate punishment. Imagining a future where Emily loses her composure, I left the venue. The next day at work, I received a report from the office staff. A senior employee who was supposed to attend an important business meeting today had fallen ill and couldn't come to work. If the contract were finalized, it would result in a significant deal. I had wanted to entrust this important meeting to the senior employee, but health issues couldn't be helped. I wanted to find someone else to fill in, but all the employees were swamped with their own work, making it hard to rearrange schedules quickly. Got it. I'll attend the meeting myself, so let them know not to worry and to take the time to recover. With that, I immediately started preparing for the meeting. Once I had everything ready for the afternoon meeting, I took some gifts and headed to the meeting location. The meeting was being held in a room at a major publicly traded real estate company. This was a crucial discussion to determine whether the tiles we manufacture would be used in their upcoming designer condominiums. Whatever the outcome, our company has a policy of only taking on projects that we find worthwhile. If a deal isn't satisfactory, we don't take it. That's the stance we maintain because short-term transactions never lead to lasting success. As a company, it's essential to handle projects that motivate both me and my employees. When I entered the meeting room, the employees on the other side, who had been waiting, all stood up at once. "I'm sorry. Our assigned employee couldn't make it due to illness today, so I'm here in his place. I hope we can have a productive discussion today. Thank you for your understanding." One of the men standing at the edge of the line stepped forward to greet me. His name tag read Scene Carter, and with a gentle expression, he said, "Not at all. We appreciate you, as the CEO, taking the time to meet with us personally despite your busy schedule. Thank you." As I handed out my business card to everyone, one employee stared at the card in complete shock, standing frozen in place. That was, without a doubt, Emily Smith. "It's been a while. Thank you for everything you've done." One of Emily's company executives glanced between her and me, whispering quietly. Scene, as if speaking on behalf of their thoughts, opened his mouth. "This is surprising. Do you two know each other?" "We were classmates in middle school. She treated me well at the reunion yesterday." When I said that, a sense of relief spread among the executives. It seemed they were eager to finalize this deal, knowing that the CEO of the client company was acquainted with one of their employees. They were likely hoping it would help smooth the negotiations. But in truth, my relationship with Emily couldn't be worse. Of course, Emily was well aware of this, yet she could clearly feel the executive's expectations pressing down on her. Her face turned pale, and she began trembling visibly. "Why didn't you tell me earlier that you were the CEO of the company we're working with? Would your attitude have changed if you'd known? If that's the case, it only makes me trust your company even less." When I replied coldly, the atmosphere in the room froze instantly. With all eyes now on me, I decided to clarify something important. Our company takes great pride in the tiles we manufacture. Do you see our products as nothing more than things to be stepped on? These are items we've poured our hearts into, like nurturing a child. I won't tolerate them being treated with disrespect. Aside from Emily, no one else seemed to understand what I was talking about. Scene quickly responded, "Not at all," and passionately spoke about how much they valued our tiles and the high expectations they had for them. Hearing his words, I felt reassured and nodded. "That's good to hear. Based on what I've heard from one of your employees, I was genuinely concerned that our products wouldn't be treated with care. If that were the case, even though this $30 million deal is significant for us, I would have had no choice but to terminate the contract." The mention of terminating the contract caused a stir among the executives. Their eyes naturally turned to Emily. It made sense from the flow of the conversation. Emily was the only one likely to have made such remarks to me. Did one of our employees say something inappropriate? If so, I'd like to know the details, Scene asked with a worried expression. I candidly recounted the events that had transpired recently. Emily made remarks that belittled subcontractors and showed disdain for tile manufacturing. I was honestly considering pulling out of the deal because of it. At my words, Emily hastily tried to defend herself. "Wait a minute. Did I really say something like that? Our company values subcontractors, and they're essential to what we do. I would never say something to demean them. Any of our classmates could back up what I'm saying, but don't worry, I'm not planning to go that far." A bit more composed now, Emily took a deep breath before continuing her excuses. "Maybe I said something as a joke in the moment, but come on, cut me some slack. As a former classmate, this is business, so let's not bring up anything unrelated from now on, okay?" What a ridiculous thing to say. Well, it's true that bringing too much personal history into business isn't ideal. I value the character and integrity of the people I work with. To be honest, I was still unsure if partnering with Emily's company was the right move. You won't mistreat any of my employees if the deal goes through, right? Like replacing their core meal with a sandwich, for example. Emily probably thought I was making a bad joke. Scene laughed and said, "There's no way anyone would actually do something like that. That's just absurd." There it is, unfortunately. If a business partner's employee has that kind of character, wouldn't it make you lose all motivation to negotiate? Emily, whose color had just returned, suddenly paled again. The executives glanced at her with a mix of disbelief and concern, as if silently asking, "Did you really do that?" Seemingly cornered, Emily raised her voice and turned the blame on me. "Well, he tried to steal a classmate's eraser back in the day, and when he almost got caught, he tried to pin the blame on me. You can't trust someone like that. If anything, we should be the ones refusing to work with him." Hearing such outrageous claims, Scene reprimanded her sharply. Perhaps out of sheer panic, Emily began ranting about how terrible I supposedly was, slinging insults in an attempt to justify herself. Although I felt bad about bringing up the past in front of the executives, I explained what had happened in middle school. I shared how an eraser I'd never touched was found in my bag and how Emily had smirked at me as she walked away afterward. While it was subjective, the events were true. The executives muttered, "That's awful." "Don't believe a word he says." Emily snapped. "Guilty people always claim they didn't do it." "Are you talking about yourself?" "Because we've all already lost all trust in you," Scene said coldly, adding, "We will not consider working with any company other than his." "Why?" Emily looked unconvinced. Scene, exasperated, explained the situation. It turned out that the tiles for the planned designer condominium heavily relied on my company's patented technology. The tiles, which would be used in the hallways and bathrooms, weren't just stylish, but also offered unique functionality that no other company could replicate. Given that the concept was central to the project, partnering with my company was non-negotiable. Unaware of this, Emily had been boasting about not needing to work with us. How little she seemed to understand her own company's operations. It was likely her looks had carried her through life so far. With such ignorance about her job was concerning, to say the least. Sensing my unease, Scene announced that Emily would be removed from the project. Why? I don't understand why I'm being taken off this. I can negotiate a better deal with him. The executives looked to me for my opinion, but I firmly shook my head. I have no intention of negotiating with her. If she remains on this project, I'll have to decline the deal entirely. When I said this decisively, Emily slumped in defeat and said nothing further. In the end, my company and Emily's employer successfully signed the $30 million contract. As Scene had promised, Emily was no longer involved during the follow-up discussions. Without her presence, I was able to negotiate calmly, and the highly sought-after designer condominium was nearing completion. It was a high-priced property in a prime location, but the high demand from buyers meant it was an attractive place to live. Emily must regret missing out on being part of such a significant project, but with her attitude towards subcontractors, it was only a matter of time before her flaws would have been exposed. The real estate company's decision to remove her was undoubtedly the right call. A few months later, I learned something even more shocking. I had assumed Emily's removal was to smooth over relations with me and ensure the negotiations went well. But it turned out there was another reason. It seems there had been a series of thefts in Emily's office, and the culprit was none other than Emily herself. Come to think of it, items frequently went missing in my class when we were kids, and Emily and I had always been in the same class. Perhaps she had a tendency to steal all along. Now that she's reportedly resigned, I hope she has found a new job and learned to stop looking down on subcontractors or taking what doesn't belong to her. Several years have passed since then. Our company's performance has been steadily climbing, and we're now handling more projects than we can accommodate with our current capacity. We're even considering investing in new equipment to meet the growing demand for our products. By working earnestly, many companies have not only recognized our technical expertise, but also resonated with our passion, choosing to partner with us. In business, the mindset and values you bring to your work are undoubtedly crucial factors. One day, as I was left alone in the workshop outside the office reflecting on this, I was startled by an unexpected visitor. The person who appeared was none other than my dad, who had disappeared years ago. "Where have you been all this time? We were so worried about you." Questions like whether he had contacted my mom or where he had been living flooded my mind, but I couldn't put them into words. My dad stayed silent for a while, but with the gentle smile I remembered from long ago, he spoke softly. "You've grown into someone remarkable. See, when you work hard, someone always notices. That's why you've been able to build your company into what it is today." After saying that, he turned to leave. I wasn't really in a position to say anything grand. Was he planning to walk away just like that? But unlike when I was a child, I had a feeling I'd see him again somewhere. Instead of chasing after him as he headed for the exit, I called out to his back, "Come visit again next time. Take your time and teach me about running a business. Neither Mom nor I hold any grudges against you." He stopped in his tracks, raised his hand slowly while still facing away, and then he eventually walked away. I followed him to the exit a little later, but as expected, he was already gone. Would he come back again? As I thought about this, something unfamiliar caught my eye. There was a drawing taped to the wall near the entrance. Seeing the title, "My Future," written on the drawing, I couldn't help but smile. In the picture, 2 adults and a boy were standing in front of a beautiful house, smiling happily together. Did you tell a falsehood about your multilingualism? You should and shouldn't do certain things. There was a stir in the still meeting room. To be honest, this unexpected circumstance perplexed me. But oddly enough, my body moved by itself. "I'm sorry. I'll carry on with the meeting from here. Lucas is my name. I am a 28-year-old man without a partner. I left my first job after college and started working for my present firm in the middle of my career. Many of the staff members of this large 8 organization are graduates of respected universities. However, I received my degree from a respectable rural university. Furthermore, the attitude toward me was unquestionably frigid because I was a mid-career hire. Claire, the head of the department, was particularly stern. "Lucas, how many years have you been working now?" "This is my 6th year," I said. "You remain at this level too." Claire would play with her hair and comment, "As a mid-tier university graduate, it must be nice to have low expectations," without even glancing at me. Such conversations were commonplace. It was very nasty of her to make fun of my education and mid-career situation. Day after day, I reminded myself that my college degree has nothing to do with my ability at work. Nevertheless, all of the other workers in my age range had attended famous institutions. Others were moving up the corporate ladder, while others were overseeing major projects. I was nothing in comparison to them. As Claire used to say, I eventually started to despise who I was and started to undervalue myself. I was then given a presentation one day. It wasn't a big deal, but the business might gain if it worked. More significantly, it was a project that might boost my self-esteem. For the discussion, I went to the meeting room. A woman yelled at me from behind as I was walking. "Are you Lucas?" Sophia, a department head from a different division, was the one who spoke. "Yes, I am that person. Hello, Sophia. I'm glad I did it correctly. I am Sophia, and I am in charge of this initiative." Despite having the same year of employment, Sophia and Claire had rather different personalities and a totally different vibe. Sophia exuded a proper ladylike air of refinement and elegance. I was enthralled as she smiled and held out her hand for a handshake. Then Claire's voice interrupted. "Are you able to return to work? You're obstructing the corridor." I greeted her even though the hallway was wide enough for anyone to pass. "Hello, Claire." "Oh, it's you. Get back to work and stop wasting time." "Yes, that's why I'm heading to the meeting for the project you assigned me." Claire remained silent, her expression deep in contemplation. She spoke again after a pause, as though she had just remembered something. "Oh, that boring project. Perfect for someone as useless as you. Do your best." Claire had no clue what kind of work I was doing. She didn't care. What irritated me even more was her mockery of Sophia's project. Still, I couldn't bring myself to talk back, so I hung my head and waited for her to leave. "You haven't changed, huh? If you carry on like that, someday everyone will give up on you." Sophia was the one who spoke up for me. "What's so wrong about being honest? Shouldn't a manager communicate properly for the sake of their team? Your words are filled with malice. A manager's duty is to guide and overcome challenges together." I was happy she said what I couldn't. But this was the company hallway, and the gazes of the other employees felt sharp. Unable to withstand the awkward atmosphere, it was Claire who broke first. Yeah, I get it. I hate when you play the goody two-shoes." With that, Claire walked off briskly. Though her tone was sharp, it felt more like she was escaping. As I watched her retreating figure, Sophia spoke to me. "Sorry about Claire. Is she always like that?" Sophia peered at my face with a worried expression. Caught off guard by her beauty so close, I quickly turned my head. "Yes, she's always like that. But it's the truth, so I've gotten used to it." "You shouldn't get used to that. You need to value yourself more." Her concern seemed genuine, and the sadness on her face stirred something in me. In this department, I'd never felt valued. Maybe that's why Sophia's words and expression felt so unfamiliar and uncomfortable. From there, Sophia and I continued to the meeting room while discussing the project. The project team consisted of 4 members: Sophia, myself, Henry from PR, and James from IT. Other than Sophia, everyone else was male. However, Sophia never gave off any sense of gender barriers. She was always warm, approachable, and easy to talk to. Perhaps because of the comfortable atmosphere, the meeting was lively with ideas. While this was only the first meeting intended as an introduction, we managed to discuss substantial details. It had been a long time since I felt such excitement and enjoyment in my work. "Lucas, don't hold back. If you have any ideas, feel free to share them. Fresh perspectives from newer members add a nice touch." "Sounds great. Let's absolutely make this a success and leave our president, Mr. Anderson, speechless." Henry, James, and of course Sophia were all senior to me, but none of them ever belittled me. They valued my input. Instead of belittling me, I felt lucky to have such a great team. "I'll be right back. I'm going to the restroom." "Feel free to keep things moving," Sophia said as she left the room. The conversation continued. "Seriously, Sophia is amazing. I can't wait for the presentation." "Yeah, she's so different from Claire." "Hey, James." "Oh, sorry." Normally, badmouthing a manager doesn't sit well with anyone. Perhaps because I was Claire's subordinate, James quickly apologized. "I don't know much about Claire, but she's always holding me." The words slipped out unintentionally. That sounds rough. Her team must have it tough. But I think you're doing a great job, Lucas. "Thank you. I'll work even harder." That's the spirit. Youth is a wonderful thing. In reality, in my department, everything revolved around Claire. Everyone worked desperately to avoid getting scolded. As a result, the atmosphere was always tensed and filled with pressure. I wanted to ask about work, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. If I did, I'd either be mocked for being incompetent or, worse, ignored altogether. Out of fear, everyone in the department kept to themselves. It was a vicious cycle. "You said you don't know much about Claire, So you don't know that story either. That story. Claire is the daughter of William, the executive director. What? I'd only greeted William a handful of times, but I knew who he was: serious, responsible, and the epitome of a workaholic. The thought that Claire was his daughter left me speechless. The revelation left me completely at a loss for words. Some say she became department head because her father's an executive. So, it was nepotism. Huh. But was it really that simple? If your parent works at the same company, would it force you to work harder? Hey, we're getting way off track here. This should help. One last push. Sophia handed me some snacks and a can of coffee. Sorry about that. I'll stay focused. And thank you for the coffee. I wondered how much Sophia had overheard. I'd heard about her reputation even from my own department. In reality, she was even better than I imagined. Kind, approachable, and though beautiful, her occasional glimpses of charm made her even more captivating. Still, I couldn't help but wonder. What would Sophia think if she knew her peer had been promoted because of nepotism? But I brushed the thought away. Sophia had stood up for me and helped me. I wanted this project to succeed for her sake. Besides, Claire might have her own struggles. Having your parent as a boss isn't all sunshine and rainbows. Doubting her without understanding felt wrong. Not long after, the meeting came to an end. All right, that's it for today. Thank you, everyone. Let's make this a success. Thank you too. Looking forward to next time. Everyone grabbed their materials and headed back to their respective departments. Lucas, can you stay back for a moment? Sure. What could it be? Did I make a mistake somewhere? Did I somehow upset her? Here, try using this. It was a pile of documents from past project proposals. This is... Lucas, you struggle a bit with planning, don't you? It wasn't so much that I struggled. I just never had proper experience. Had I caused trouble for the team because of that? I'm sorry for being a burden. No. If it's difficult, I want to teach you. I'm not upset at all. Oh. Sophia's words from earlier flashed through my mind. A manager's duty is to guide and overcome challenges together. Sophia was trying to help me overcome the areas I struggled with. My chest grew warm, and at the same time, I felt tears welling up behind my eyes. Thank you. I'll do my best. I wasn't used to being treated kindly at work, and I felt so happy I almost wanted to cry. Take it easy, okay? I'd be a little lonely if you suddenly became completely independent. I wondered how lucky Sophia's subordinates must be. I didn't mean to criticize Claire, but I couldn't help feeling envious. Lucas, do you dislike Claire? Huh. The sudden question surprised me. She has a sharp tongue, but she's not a bad person, right? So, I hope you won't hate her. I want Claire to acknowledge me. That's why I'll keep working hard. Hearing that, Sophia smiled happily. I see. All right, let's blow her away together. Yes, Sophia. I look forward to your guidance. After that, she helped me with the areas I didn't understand, and the study session came to an end. Lucas, do you want to exchange contacts? Sophia opened her address book and made the suggestion. Are you sure? Was it really okay to get the contact information of a senior I admired? Wouldn't I be punished for something so lucky? It's so you can reach out if you have any questions about the project. Oh, right. Thank you. Of course, it was for work. Feeling embarrassed about my earlier excitement, I calmed myself down. All right. I've got your contact now. I wondered if she already had Henry's and James's contacts. As I thought about that, she said, "What if I told you work was just an excuse?" Pardon. Just kidding. See you later. Sophia walked away with a mischievous, almost devilish smile. I didn't know Sophia could make an expression like that. Still, that joke was enough to give me a heart attack. As soon as I returned to my department, Claire yelled at me. "You're late. Do you think this job is a joke?" "I'm sorry, Claire. You're still here." It was rare for Claire to still be around after office hours. Was there some sort of trouble? "What? Am I not allowed to be here?" "That's not what I meant." "Whatever. I'm leaving now." With that, Claire slammed the door and left. "Oh, okay. Have a good evening." What on earth was that all about? I knew working overtime wasn't ideal, but I had finished my tasks. If thinking about it won't solve anything, then forget it. I'll go home, eat dinner, and sleep. In the end, I never figured out Claire's intentions. After that, my life at the company changed dramatically. Sophia's advice to rely on others when struggling really hit home. Thanks to my experienced teammates, I learned so much. I took that knowledge back to my own department, sometimes even teaching others. At first, everyone was caught off guard because I, who was considered a lowly mid-career rookie, had taken action. It took time, but the atmosphere in the department began to change. More people started communicating, and the number of cheerful conversations gradually increased. Well, Claire's daily sarcasm didn't go away, though. Still, people who used to be indifferent began to stand up for me. Today was no different. Have you been getting a little full of yourself now that you're doing better at work? It happened when I submitted the materials Claire had requested. There wasn't anything wrong with them, so her comment caught me off guard. No, I didn't mean to. I tried to explain, but Claire wasn't done. Lately, you're clinging to Sophia. What's so great about someone whose only asset is her looks? Normally, I would let it slide, but today was different. She's been teaching me properly, and I genuinely respect her. What's with you all of a sudden? I'm doing my best, and Claire, I think that's a bit unfair, I said. Claire seemed genuinely surprised that I had spoken up, and she fell silent. Other employees chimed in to back me up. That's right, Claire. Lucas has been working really hard. Exactly. The way you said, that wasn't fair at all. Claire's expression darkened with irritation. Whatever. I'm done with this, she snapped and stormed out of the room. Once she left, I felt a wave of guilt wash over me. I wanted Claire to acknowledge me, but acting like that wouldn't help. I felt like a failure as her subordinate. As I sat there feeling down, my senior spoke up. Lucas, don't worry about it. Yeah, Claire was in the wrong this time. I was grateful for their support, but I couldn't shake the lingering unease. Would I ever be able to understand Claire? With those thoughts lingering in my mind, I returned to my work. Weeks passed. My relationship with Claire hadn't improved, but the project with Sophia continued to progress smoothly. At this rate, our upcoming business negotiation was guaranteed to be a success. The entire team was confident and ready, but none of us noticed the ominous shadow creeping up on us. Claire, do you have a moment? I have a message for Lucas in your department, Mr. Anderson said. Good evening, of course. What's the message? Thank you. Well, actually... Oh, is that so? I understand. I'll let him know. I just came up with a great idea. Everyone, great work. Tomorrow's the big day. Let's make it a success. The negotiation was finally happening tomorrow. It felt like time had flown by. I'd gained so many new skills, and if this succeeded, it would give me real confidence. Maybe even Claire would acknowledge me a little. I found myself thinking about that. All right, we're done for today. See you all tomorrow. With our goodbyes said, the team started to head out together. As we left the company building, I suddenly realized I'd forgotten something. Sorry, I forgot something. Don't wait for me. Please, go ahead. Got it. Be careful heading home. See you tomorrow. It seemed I had dropped my house keys during the meeting. The sound of them jingling had bothered me, so I'd left them on the table. They were probably still there. As I approached the meeting room, I heard someone talking quietly. It was a woman's voice, muttering something to herself. Feeling a little guilty, I peeked inside. That's everything. I hope tomorrow will be okay. It was Sophia, alone in the room. It seemed she had sent us all home so she could review for tomorrow by herself. Her expression was darker than I'd ever seen, far from the cheerful, lively Sophia I knew. Even Claire has moments of weakness, so Sophia must too. I have to make this a success, she said. I froze. Sophia had started crying. In my surprise, I accidentally touched the door, making it creak loudly. Ah, who's there? Oh, I'm sorry. I just came back for something I forgot. The awkwardness was overwhelming, but Sophia must have felt it even more. I searched desperately for the right words, but nothing came. Sorry, you caught me at a bad moment. Sophia apologized first, and I felt ashamed. That's not true. I really respect you, Sophia. Sophia looked at me, stunned, her mouth slightly open. I see. Thank you. It's embarrassing to show you such a weak side, though. I think this side of you is great, too. Ha, crap. I messed up. I meant to say I liked seeing her human side, but it came out all wrong. Wait, Embarrassment swallowed me whole, leaving me speechless. Thank you. I know what you meant, Lucas. Sophia, is there anything I can do to help? I asked. I wanted to do anything to support her. I didn't want Sophia to cry anymore. Even if it was just a little, I wanted to be her strength. After thinking for a moment, Sophia spoke. Can I let myself be a little vulnerable? Of course. Please lean on me as much as you need to. Sophia finally showed a small smile. Do you remember when I asked if you disliked Claire? Yes, I remember. People say Claire only got where she is because of her father, but that's not true. Sophia's eyes were serious, and there was no trace of a lie. It's harder because her father is an executive. She's constantly compared to him, and even when she succeeds, people find ways to criticize her. Sophia spoke about Claire as if she were carrying the weight herself. And yet, she works so hard. Compared to her, I feel weak and pathetic. Sophia, I'm terrified about tomorrow. I'm so scared I might fail. Sophia, who was admired by everyone, must have always been fighting her own battles. She had been pushing herself forward, encouraging herself to keep going. I, too, always believed that Sophia would be fine no matter what. Maybe all those expectations we had for her turned into pressure. Sophia, just as you opened up to me, I want to answer you with my true feelings. Please rely on me. I'm on your side. I'd be sad if you tried to carry everything on your own. Just lean on me. Bring it on. Pa, you're so dependable, she said, smiling at last. Lucas, there's actually a secret I've been keeping. Can I tell you a secret? Sure. Bring it on. I was thrilled that she was trusting me with something no one else knew. I braced myself to accept anything she said. Actually, what? Being ready to accept something and not being surprised are two very different things. I might have just heard something unbelievable. Finally, the big day arrived. Of course, I was nervous, but more than anything, I was happy to be facing the event alongside this team. Lucas and I will stand in front to handle the facilitation and note-taking. Would you two support us, please? Understood. We finished the final checks for our presentation and waited for the clients to arrive. Lucas, thank you for last night. I feel so much better now. It's no problem, but I was pretty surprised, Sophia said, laughing. Aha, sorry about that. Sophia's smile at that moment was radiant. Her smile suited her best. Is there something on my face? No, sorry. Hag, you're strange. Lucas. All right, let's get started. We stood in front, greeted the room, and began our presentation. At that moment, one of the men in the room raised his voice. Why isn't this in French? This is a negotiation with our company, isn't it? I didn't understand what was going on. There are participants from multiple countries for this negotiation, so we arranged for an interpreter, right? I was told she could handle it. The room erupted into a murmur of confusion. Outside the room, Claire was eavesdropping on the situation, a smug look on her face. Serves them right. They got too carried away. It's punishment for all that flirting. Inside the meeting room, complaints and grumbling voices grew louder. Did you lie about being able to speak multiple languages? There are things you should and shouldn't do, honestly. The unexpected situation left me stunned and confused, but for some reason, my body moved on its own. Excuse me. I'll take it from here. Wait. What? I stepped in front of Sophia. Let me begin the presentation. I said this in French and proceeded. The chaotic atmosphere in the room gradually began to calm down. So there is an interpreter. Oh, Sophia, sorry for the misunderstanding. The presentation ended smoothly. However, the real challenge was yet to come, handling the queue and a session in multiple languages. When I glanced to my side, Sophia looked at me with worried eyes. This was my chance to show her I could handle it. If anyone has any questions, please raise your hand. Yes, may I? The first person to speak up was from Italy. I responded in Italian. Then came questions in German, Portuguese, Spanish, Korean, and Chinese. About 30 minutes later, the queue and a session ended, marking the conclusion of the negotiation. We received loud applause and words of appreciation. After escorting the clients out, our team gathered back in the meeting room. We had planned to hold a post-meeting review, but that was clearly not happening. As soon as we sat down, I was bombarded with questions. Lucas, what the heck just happened? You owe us an explanation. Yeah, who are you, Lucas? I was sweating for a moment. Wow, you were amazing. I explained everything to my teammates. Well, I can speak about 10 languages conversationally, not just the ones I use today. You can speak 10 different languages. That's an incredible skill. Why were you hiding it? 10 languages. That's insane. Yeah, you should be proud of that. Everyone continued to praise me one after another, but deep down, I couldn't fully enjoy their compliments. I had a trauma, the reason I could speak so many languages and why I had chosen to hide it. If you don't want to talk about it, that's okay. But if you're willing, I'd like to hear it. The people in this room saw me for who I was. Inside, I knew that even if they heard my story, their view of me wouldn't change. All right. Nervously, I began speaking, carefully gauging their reactions. My father was a language teacher. Growing up, our house was filled with different languages. He also loved traveling and often took me overseas. Every time I encountered a new country, I became more captivated by its languages. Over time, studying next to my father became a routine, and before I knew it, I could hold conversations in multiple languages. It was a skill I was proud of and had always seen as my strength. In my previous company, I used it as a key asset. After all, in business, speaking English is usually enough. But I felt different, better than others, and let it go to my head. Lucas, sorry, I can't read this document. Can you help? What? You can't even read this? You really are hopeless. At first, people praised my skills. Lucas, you can really handle anything. That's amazing. You're so cool. Ah, thanks. If you need anything, just ask me. But eventually, my attitude pushed everyone away. I can just use my phone to translate. I don't need your help anymore. You really lack humility. Why don't you just work alone? One by one, they left. Meanwhile, my colleagues kept growing and improving while I isolated myself, unable to ask for help. Eventually, I couldn't stand being there anymore and quit the company. I told myself I would never make the same mistake again. I started thinking my skill was nothing special. I can speak more languages than most people. It's not something extraordinary. It's not something worth bragging about. That's what I kept telling myself as I went about my life. But living that way, I slowly lost confidence in myself. I started to dislike who I was and grew weaker, more hesitant. Even under Claire, it was the same. I didn't hate her, but her words always reminded me of my powerlessness. It was painful because it brought back that same trauma. But being part of this project changed me. I started enjoying work and feeling a sense of purpose again. Most of all, I regained a little bit of confidence. When I finished telling my story, Sophia gently rubbed my back. "Thank you for sharing such a painful experience. But you really helped us, Lucas. If I had a skill like that, I'd show it off every day. You just get too full of yourself, so no way." The room erupted in laughter. I was so grateful that they still saw me the same way, even after hearing everything. It made me so happy I could barely contain it. Just then, I noticed someone's gaze on me. I turned around, and there was Claire, standing in the doorway. "Claire, what are you doing here? What was all that just now? I wasn't told anything about this." Claire glared at me, but this time, I didn't flinch. Instead, I took a step toward her. "I checked with upper management after the negotiation. Claire, you knew about this, didn't you?" "Wait, what? Is that true?" "Yes, you knew, but you deliberately didn't tell us. You wanted us to fail, didn't you?" I stepped in front of Claire, pressing her for an answer. "That's right. I didn't say anything." "Why would you do that? Do you realize how serious this could have been?" "Because I hate that part of you," Claire snapped back, without an ounce of remorse. "All you do is rely on your looks to get attention, even seducing someone else's team members." "That's not true. No matter how hard I work, they always say it's because of my father. You could never understand how that feels. You'll never understand." Claire's frustration overflowed as she lashed out, seemingly unstoppable. I thought about how Sophia had always worried about her. This misunderstanding between them felt like such a waste. At that moment, I made a decision. That's not true. In fact, Sophia understands better than anyone. "Lucas, wait. If you care about Claire, you should tell her," I said firmly. Sophia gave a small nod, so I continued. "What are you talking about?" "Sophia is our president, Mr. Anderson's daughter." "What?" Everyone's jaws dropped. "Sophia, is that true?" Sophia nodded quietly. "Sophia told me how hard it is to be seen as nothing but the boss's daughter. She said she admires you, Claire, that you're strong for enduring it and pushing forward. She thinks she could never measure up to you." Tears welled up in Claire's eyes. Her lips trembled, and the tears she had held back finally began to spill. I didn't know," Claire whispered. Sophia stepped forward and embraced her. "I'm sorry. I knew I should have spoken up sooner, but I stayed silent. You must have been carrying this burden all on your own. I'm the one who should apologize. I was so jealous of you being respected by your team that I did something unforgivable." The two of them cried, holding each other tightly. Later, I learned something surprising. Claire had been tough on me, not out of malice, but because she wanted to say something as my manager. But I had never noticed, always relying on Sophia instead. Had I failed as Claire's subordinate? All I had ever wanted was her approval. Yet somewhere along the way, I'd lost sight of that. "Lucas, I looked at the presentation materials you made. You put so much effort into it. I was genuinely impressed." Hearing that, I was stunned. The smile she gave me then was the most genuine and beautiful I had ever seen. Claire later reported everything to upper management and requested a transfer to a branch office. That branch was known as a dead-end assignment, so the news shocked everyone. But Claire seemed determined to continue supporting the company from there. She really was a strong person. "Lucas, keep doing your best, okay?" "Yes, Claire. Please come back someday." "Do you think I can?" Won't everyone hate me? I won't. I'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting too, Sophia added softly. Sophia had come from another department to see Claire off. Her smile was warm and kind. From now on, let's really get along, okay? We'll always be waiting for you, Sophia said. Thank you. The two shared a heartfelt embrace, and then Claire left. She's really gone. Yeah, it's going to feel lonely without her. Sophia, are you crying? Want to borrow my shoulder? Hey, don't get carried away. When I teased Sophia, she turned bright red and scolded me. Well, if I were to borrow anyone's shoulder, I can't imagine it being anyone but yours. Wait, what does that mean? I asked in surprise, but Sophia just smiled mischievously and wouldn't tell me. Figure it out yourself, okay? Hey, that's not fair. Looking back on everything, there were hard times, but I was truly glad to have met Sophia, my team members, and even Claire. Why is such a low-spec man so attractive? The handsome manager, as my boss is known in the office, said this with an unusually youthful grin. Since the day he transferred, he has denigrated me, an older regular employee with a high school education. The same thing happened at my wedding. His demeanor lacked even the faintest trace of blessing. You have such unique taste, despite your stunning appearance. A woman with your level of expertise may find a far better spouse. The staff members surrounding us became pallid. Manager, what have you done? Is what they would say if they were speaking out loud. Putting me down is one thing, but this time he even made my wife feel awful. I had so much I wanted to say to my employer, but I said nothing. Since our wedding is a significant life event, I didn't want to spoil the atmosphere. My wife was the one who criticized the boss's comments. Having you as a boss, I really feel sorry for all your employees. When I visited the floor of the HR department the following day, I was unable to locate the manager. He had unintentionally said something inappropriate to someone he most obviously shouldn't have, and with good reason. I'm a rank-and-file worker named John Hart, and I'm 35 years old. I work for a company that makes sporting goods in the Human Resources division. People seem to expect that I'd have some responsibility at 35, but I'm just a rank-and-file employee doing a variety of odd jobs for the company. Even in such a role, it is typically assumed that if you work for the corporation, you have at least a college degree. But I only have a high school diploma. I worked part-time and, for some reason, had no plans after high school. I was rescued from that state of aimlessness by this company. I returned the favor by putting in a lot of effort behind the scenes every day to make sure that the workers' performance was at its peak. Seeing workers my age advance through the ranks irritates me, to be honest. Nevertheless, I was so worn out from competing with everyone at the time that I never pursued promotions, certificates, boss sucks, or self-promotion. In fact, I refused the director's offer of a promotion, saying it was too soon for me. John, you've worked for the company for more than 10 years, correct? You are well respected by the employees and know how the HR department operates. Perhaps it's time for you to demonstrate your actual managerial ability. Robert, the director, has always taken care of me. He is the perfect boss since he is aware of the additional work I do without anybody else noticing. Although I wanted to return the director's generosity, I was undecided. Thank you for the offer, but I'm not comfortable providing directions or leading others. I'd like to continue doing what I'm doing now, if that's okay. I won't force you if you persist, but before you have children, you should consider it. Both parents may not be able to work after having children. Although it's not much, having a managerial role does come with other benefits, such as housing and educational costs. If you maintain this attitude, you may find yourself in a difficult situation. I was the only person in the HR department who fulfilled the requirements to be promoted to manager. The HR department had to start over because I declined the promotion. Consequently, a decision was made to move from another department. Thomas Wilson was selected as the new manager. At 30, he is 5 years younger than me. Despite his height and slim build, his muscular arms are easily seen. You may describe him as muscular and slender. The attractive new hire made quite a sensation among the HR department's female employees. It was only for a second, though. The room went silent as soon as Thomas started his introduction. Hello, everyone. I've been appointed as the new manager of the HR department, Thomas Wilson. I studied business administration in college and have obtained national certifications as a certified public accountant and a financial planner. My mission is to improve the operational efficiency of the HR department and enhance the capabilities of our staff. I encourage you all not to be constrained by past norms, but to fully embrace my instructions and guidance. Thomas was a highly ambitious individual. Being appointed a manager at 30 seemed like a significant achievement to me, but he was still in a hurry, feeling it was not enough. What I learned later was that although Thomas often boasted about his academic credentials, he had failed to get into his first-choice college and ended up attending one ranked lower. While he appeared confident, he secretly harbored a serious inferiority complex about his educational background. It was intended that I would be promoted to manager, but he must have heard that I turned down the offer. Knowing that a high school graduate had declined his current position left Thomas somewhat unsettled. He might have been trying to maintain his self-esteem by bullying me, assuming I was only a high school graduate. You're a high school graduate, aren't you? Can't study, can't go to college, and can barely manage the bare minimum in human relations. Someone who can't take responsible actions surely can't lead a team in an organization. Though I doubt anyone would follow you in the first place. Maybe you're right, I'll handle any menial task. I didn't want to sour the atmosphere in the HR department, so I decided to fully go along with Thomas. However, a gloomy air started to envelop the HR department. The director, noticing this and worried, commented, Thomas originally tended to emphasize educational background too much. When he was in the sales department, he wouldn't listen to those with lower education and even judge clients based on their academic credentials. I thought moving to the HR department and gaining some career experience might help him build confidence and become more relaxed, even though it meant promoting him to a manager in a different department. From my perspective, the manager seemed well educated enough. His envy is too strong, and he's letting his complexes get the better of him. There will be unpleasant moments, but please look after him for a while. Given these circumstances, the director discreetly assigned me to be Thomas' support. This turned out to be an incredibly difficult task. Thomas, with his quick wit and eloquence, did have the makings of an excellent salesman. However, he utterly lacked the ability to care for, respect, and develop others. Within less than a week, the HR department staff had distanced themselves from him. Even though Thomas was the issue, we couldn't let this disrupt our work. So I went around speaking to each person individually, asking them to be patient. The manager is still getting used to his position, so please bear with us for a while. I had a reason for wanting to quietly settle the turmoil in the HR department. In fact, 1 month after Thomas started, I was going to have my wedding. I had to invite Thomas as my boss, obviously. The truth is, I didn't want to worsen our relationship with the department head any more than it already was. The wedding was coming up soon. My dad, mom, and even grandpa were really looking forward to it. It's a shame grandma passed away a few years ago. I wish she could have seen me in my wedding dress. I'm sure she's watching over you from somewhere. How about we bring her photo? That way, we can show your bridal look to grandma too. Let's make sure to reserve a special seat for her. Hearing my suggestion, Ashley seemed to have an epiphany. That's a brilliant idea. I have a photo from when we went on a trip abroad. She really loved that picture, so I'll bring it to the venue. Ashley is my fiancée. She quit her job to prepare for the wedding, but until recently, she was working as an office worker at a certain company. She's kind, serious, and a great cook. My parents think she's too good for me, but they're happy nonetheless. I'm just a high school graduate and a regular employee, so I don't make a lot of money. We can't afford a lavish wedding, but Ashley is grateful and happy with my intentions. I can't help but feel saved by Ashley's subtle kindness. Now, I'd like to talk about how I met Ashley. Ashley was an employee at a client company of the place I work. We met when she had just joined her company as a new employee. Ordering necessary supplies is an important task in the HR department. Ashley's company deals with office supplies, therefore, our transactions took place throughout the year. Now, Ashley can take care of various things, but she was very clumsy when she first joined. There were notable mistakes in ordering supplies and issuing documents. However, through our interactions, I came to know she was a hardworking, serious, and sincere person. Eventually, I found myself having feelings for her. But since she was a client employee, I kept my special feelings to myself. We got closer not through work, but in our private lives. I work at a sports equipment manufacturer, but I was originally a die-hard baseball kid. I batted second and played shortstop. There was a time when I aimed for the National High School Baseball Championship or the professional baseball world, spending every day thinking about baseball. Due to my job, I had only been watching baseball for about 10 years. But then, I started playing again by chance. John, your play is always really good to watch. You're not a home run hitter, but you rack up hits that lead to scores, and the success rate of your batting is impressive. There was a pro baseball player known as the bunt master back in the day, and John, you have that vibe. No, that's definitely an overstatement. When I was younger, I thought I could become a baseball player, but the results honestly show it's not such an easy world. No world goes exactly as you wish, but having played baseball, you must have developed the ability to look around you. Especially playing shortstop. You need to keep an eye not just on the area between second and third base, but also from the shortstop to second base gap. The man who said this while narrowing his eyes was Paul Smith. He's an 80-year-old who had demonstrated his abilities as the president of a company for many years. Recently, he handed over his position to his son and stepped back, now acting more as a chairman. Nowadays, he's more passionate about managing a community baseball team than running the company. Playing shortstop, you sometimes have to run towards center field or left field. Indeed. I'm not sure how much awareness I have, but it might indeed use a lot of stamina. Maybe it's because you're looking around that you use so much stamina. Otherwise, you couldn't cover bases for steals or pickoffs. It's also the key to initiating double plays and relay plays. Being praised by the organizer of the community baseball team, I felt a bit embarrassed, and my face turned red. It had been years since someone praised me like this. The last time I was praised was back in middle school. Of course, I must have been praised as an adult too, but strangely, my childhood memories are still vivid. What's wrong? You're blushing so much. I just spoke the truth. Why are you getting embarrassed? When I noticed, Ashley was behind me. It's actually quite coincidental, but while working at the company, Ashley was also active as the manager of our amateur baseball team. There were a few baseball enthusiasts among the employees at Ashley's company. Through our business exchanges, it became known that I used to play baseball seriously, and the suggestion to join the amateur baseball team came through another employee from a different company we were doing business with. Of course, I was also aware that Ashley was the manager. Although I had sworn never to play baseball again, I also wanted to get closer to Ashley, so I ended up joining the team impulsively. That's the whole story of how I started playing amateur baseball. While our favorite pro baseball teams were different, Ashley had enjoyed watching baseball since she was a kid, especially in the hot summer. Ashley took on all sorts of chores, from making cold drinks to setting up tents. If Ashley was in trouble, I would help her without hesitation. Gradually, when Ashley had a problem, she would turn to me for help. As we continued like this, we became close and started to see each other as special. Ashley, please marry me. I only have a high school diploma, and my options for departments to join or teams to advance in are limited, so I can't expect much in terms of career advancement in the future. But I'll do my best for your happiness." At that moment, I also had the feeling that I would do things I wasn't good at for Ashley's happiness. Perhaps she saw through my heart because Ashley smiled and said, "You don't have to force yourself. I was drawn to your kind personality that cares for everyone. Playing so that everyone can shine. That's the position you excel in the most." Ashley didn't care at all that I only had a high school diploma and became my lifelong partner. Meeting such a wonderful woman and being able to marry her was something I never imagined. That's why I am truly grateful to Ashley from the bottom of my heart. Now let's return to the present. But that's why I didn't want to worry and let my relationship with Thomas dampen the joyful atmosphere of the wedding. On the day of the wedding, relatives, friends, colleagues, and bosses from our respective companies rushed to the venue to celebrate our marriage. It was a small wedding, but it was filled with the warm hearts of people. During the reception, everyone came to pour beer along with words of congratulations. I thought the happy time would continue peacefully like this until the end. But reality wasn't that sweet. Just as the reception was about to end, the situation took a turn. Thomas, who had just joined the company, came to pour beer for me. Honestly, I didn't think he would behave as usual in front of my colleagues and bosses, including me and Ashley. However, Thomas handed me a beer bottle and instructed me to pour it into his glass. I came all the way here even though I just transferred and we haven't had much interaction. Besides, it'd be weird if I, with a higher education, poured beer for you while you bowed down to me, right? Well, yeah, that might be true. I was so surprised by Thomas's attitude that I fumbled in my response. Thomas had a habit of bringing up educational backgrounds whenever he didn't like something. He mentioned low-level colleges, high school diplomas, and vocational school graduations, and so on. Even though he was like that, he was still my boss in this company, so reluctantly, I decided to invite him to the wedding. Other department heads and managers who appreciated me also came to the ceremony. Therefore, I also hoped that attending the wedding would be a good opportunity for Thomas, who was isolated in the HR department. However, the result was completely the opposite. What was good about someone as laid back as him? With his refreshing looks, Thomas was also known as the handsome manager. There were also troublesome behaviors due to his education-oriented mindset, so of course, it's not a 100% complimentary nickname. However, Thomas seemed to be aware of his own handsomeness. With an unnaturally bright smile, he looked at me and Ashley. "For someone as beautiful as you have quite peculiar tastes. A woman like you could surely find a more high-spec partner." There was no hint of congratulations in his tone. In my mind, I thought, just as I expected. In fact, when I handed him the invitation, there were some concerning signs in Thomas's behavior. I personally handed out wedding invitations to the employees in the HR department. It's a fact that their precious day off would be wasted just because we happen to work in the same department. I handed out the invitations myself to show my sincerity. Since we had talked about getting engaged, everyone genuinely congratulated us with heartfelt wishes. However, Thomas' reaction was completely different. He glanced at the invitation but never made eye contact with me. Without even looking at the contents, he casually placed the invitation on the desk. His indifference left me speechless. "Why did you choose this week for the wedding?" This time of the year coincides with the budget deadline, so the whole company is in chaos. If you're going to drag employees out, you should consider not only your own happiness, but also the situation of those around you. Oh, what a mess. What a mess. Thomas began to complain about the wedding date. Although it wasn't clear what exactly was bothering him, glancing around, the other employees seemed unsure of how to intervene and wore troubled expressions, looking down. Continuing the discussion about the wedding at this point would only inconvenience the other employees. Reluctantly, I surrendered completely. "I apologize for not considering your schedule. If you're busy, it's perfectly fine if you can't attend. What are you talking about? In this kind of situation, it's the boss who should give a congratulatory speech. Are you implying that you don't care about me? Due to my position, I have to give a wedding gift. I find it wasteful to give you a gift, but I have to do it anyway, so I've included it in my schedule. No, I didn't expect you to attend, so please don't worry about the gift. It's really okay. Feeling the urge to escape from this situation as soon as possible, Thomas seemed satisfied with my response. But there was clearly an awkward atmosphere lingering in the department at that moment. It was clear from his actions and words since he took office up until today that he was naturally a tough person to deal with. I hadn't expected him to make snide remarks in front of the employees. I went home and vented to Ashley about what had happened today. I was really surprised. I had thought for sure that at least my wedding would be properly celebrated, but I guess I was foolish to even hope a little. Thomas is 30, right? I bet he's just feeling the pressure because everyone around him is getting married. Don't worry so much. Everything will be fine on the day. Ashley offered me some encouraging words. At that time, Ashley hadn't yet realized the true horror of what Thomas was capable of. Spending time with Ashley was very comforting, even though the issue with Thomas lingered in the back of my mind. My spirits were completely lifted. However, even on the day of the wedding, Thomas's attitude was the same as always. I regretted inviting him, realizing it was a mistake. Suddenly, overcome with frustration, I couldn't stop shaking. Without noticing anything was amiss with me, Thomas loudly proclaimed for the whole venue to hear, "Oh, someone with your lack of education is doomed to be a low-level employee forever. Your salary won't increase, and your wife will surely struggle. I don't mean to be rude, but you should start looking for part-time work now." Thomas was in his own world, completely oblivious to the shocked expressions of the colleagues around him. Everyone must have been thinking, "Thomas, what have you done?" However, Thomas, perhaps feeling exhilarated from speaking his mind, tried to leave with a brighter smile than usual. I had never seen anything so ridiculous in my life. Thomas's cheerfulness was just a manifestation of his shallowness. I felt pity for him. Then, someone called out to stop Thomas. It was Ashley, who would become my wife. She had heard stories about Thomas, but seemed not to have expected this much. Ashley was angry. "To think you're a supervisor, I truly feel sorry for your employees," she said. Thomas, surprised, turned around and asked, "What do you mean?" Despite her usually kind nature, Ashley could be quite formidable when angry. I prepared myself for what was to come. "Why can't you celebrate your employees' happiness? How can you possibly foster growth in your team with that attitude? You've been smiling this whole time, but what are the smiles really about? Your smiles lack sincerity. If you think attending a wedding is meaningless, you shouldn't have come at all. It would have been more respectable and genuine." When Ashley unleashed what she had been holding inside, Thomas' expression changed. "I get this uncomfortable feeling when I see others happy," he retorted loudly. Just then, our managers and directors seemed to enter his field of view. The executives were taken aback by Thomas's distraught appearance. Thomas was probably panicked by their reaction. He turned his back on us again and left the venue. He seemed quite disturbed. He left clutching a beer bottle, his smile as refreshingly misplaced as ever, but ultimately ridiculous. The next day, when I arrived at work as usual, the normally quiet office was unusually abuzz. After a wedding, it would have been normal to exchange greetings and share thoughts on the event, but everyone seemed tense and whispered among themselves. "What's going on?" I asked by way of greeting. One of the employees whispered back, "We can't find the manager. It seems he's been called to the president's office." I see. Do you know something?" I reacted impulsively. Though none of the employees were aware of the situation, pretending to make copies, I made my way to the president's office. As expected, I could hear several voices from inside as I approached. When I lightly knocked on the door, the secretary peeked out. "You've come at just the right time. Please come in." Inside, I found Thomas, our company's president, a client's chairman, and my beloved wife, Ashley, all sitting at the table with solemn expressions. "Thank you for attending our wedding yesterday. It was a wonderful wedding," Ashley said, looking truly happy. "Yes, indeed." Ignoring Thomas, the chairman, Ashley, and I engaged in conversation. Then, the president looked at me and apologized to me in front of Thomas. "I'm sorry I couldn't make it to the wedding yesterday. I had a business trip planned 6 months ago. I really wanted to celebrate your new beginning." "No, your thoughts alone are enough." I glanced at Thomas briefly. Thomas was usually a confident manager, but he was clearly at a loss for words, his eyes darting around. Seeing Thomas so out of his element, I couldn't help but say, "Thank you for taking the time to come yesterday despite being so busy. I understand it's a busy time for the company, and I apologize for any inconvenience to the HR department. I'm willing to do whatever is needed, so please feel free to direct me." No, about yesterday, I just. Despite being in front of the president, he couldn't manage to respond properly. His mind must have been in turmoil. Then, the client's chairman started to get to the point. Right. We have an important matter to discuss. You're Thomas, aren't you? I saw you at Ashley's wedding yesterday, even if just for a moment. Thank you for coming despite it being a weekend." "Oh, yes. As John's manager, I wanted to celebrate my employee's new beginning, so I attended." Thomas tried to act as if the harsh words he had said to me during the wedding didn't happen, especially in front of the executives. Suddenly regaining his cheerful demeanor, pretending to be the ideal boss, he must have thought he could deceive everyone. But it was a futile effort. I was truly shocked. I'm over 80 years old now. My wife passed away from illness a few years ago. I don't know when my time will come, so being able to see my granddaughter Ashley's wedding with my own eyes made me incredibly happy. Moreover, her partner is John, who plays diligently in my amateur baseball team. When I was about to express my feelings to the two of you, you came over. I thought you were going to offer your congratulations, but what did you say? The client's chairman, calling Ashley his granddaughter, was Paul Smith, the man who sponsors the amateur baseball team I belong to. Meaning, Ashley is the granddaughter of the client's chairman and the daughter of our company's president. To such a woman, Thomas had said disrespectful things, suggesting she had no eye for choosing a partner and should look for part-time work. When I got engaged to Ashley, considering the future, I had informed the employees of the HR department. However, that was just before Thomas took over as manager. I should have informed Thomas too, but his derogatory attitude towards me was so severe that I missed the chance to tell him about my engagement to Ashley. I'm sorry, Thomas. I didn't mean to hide it. However, you seem to dislike me so much that I never found the right moment to bring up personal matters, I said. Before I knew it, the day had arrived. When I made an apologetic face, Ashley lightly restrained me. Let's stop apologizing. It seems he's unaware of everything. It would be cruel to let him dig his own grave further, so it's better to clarify things now. If relationships sour, it affects the company too. Your strength lies in your ability to look around and understand your surroundings. But perhaps because you see too much, you tend to overthink and worry about others too much. Given the situation, it's better to be direct and discuss your career plans moving forward, she said. Encouraged by Chairman Paul, I slowly stood in front of Thomas and clearly conveyed my future career plans as much as I knew. I met Ashley through my work in the HR department. I didn't know she was the president's daughter when I developed feelings for her. However, our relationship rapidly progressed through our connection in amateur baseball, and we started dating with marriage in mind. That was when I first became fully aware of Ashley's position. The client's company is globally recognized for its high-performance product development and office equipment. Though not very large, it operates as a family-owned business, and Ashley is the granddaughter of the company's founder, making her a potential successor. As for me, I had no ambition to climb the corporate ladder, but I understood that to be with Ashley, I needed to change. To repeat, I was a former high school baseball player aspiring for baseball championships and professional leagues. However, an injury during practice ended my baseball dreams, and I lost my goal. In baseball, I was exposed to fierce competition, so I was completely burned out. I took the initiative to distance myself from the competition. The company that took me in allowed me to lead a peaceful life as an ordinary employee. But meeting Ashley made me realize I couldn't stay the same. I decided to prepare myself to grow as a future successor. I can say my experience and skills are sufficient. That's why I've been committed to learning the basics of HR work up to this day. I took on every task asked of me. The department had offered me a promotion to manager, but I planned to resign in a year, so I declined. And then you were brought in as the replacement. Resigning, you say? Thomas asked. I'll be joining Paul's company initially to learn the job. I'll start as a regular employee without any position. When our marriage was decided, I was offered the role of executive vice president to be involved in the management of the company. The chairman believed I could make a significant contribution based on my style of play in baseball. However, I felt that becoming an executive vice president without any track record would not sit well with the employees. Thinking this, I requested to start as a regular employee to learn the work first. That's the situation. Thomas had reached a point of no return. Despite being my wife, he had repeatedly made disrespectful comments to the daughter of one of our client presidents. No one was there to offer him a helping hand. At this moment, the president spoke to Thomas in a low voice. Please go home for today. There are other concerning matters besides this incident. We will conduct a thorough internal investigation and inform you of your future with the company afterward. In fact, not just within the company, but extending to clients, there had been employees harassed for their educational background. Though the severity varied, the total number exceeded 50 people. The company was trying to broaden its business scope by valuing various abilities, not just educational background. Thus, alongside former high school athletes like me, there were super elites who had graduated from universities abroad. Thomas's actions were completely against the company's policy. People who use sports equipment polish themselves in a dimension separate from academic background every day. The products we deal with belong to a world unrelated to educational attainment. We didn't hire you because of your academic background. You were hired because you diligently played soccer until high school, even though you were a substitute. If you had been a regular player, we probably wouldn't have hired you. I still remember how your eyes shone when you talked about soccer during the interview. Please bring back the person you were back then, the president said. It was later revealed that Thomas, like me, had also experienced failure in sports. He had practiced morning and evening, rain or shine, but never managed to secure a regular spot on the team. He tried hard to get into college in order to look back at the regular soccer team. However, he didn't get into his first-choice college. While it was a prestigious college from my perspective, for Thomas, it was another experience of failure, just like soccer. I'm sorry. I'll wash my face and start afresh, Thomas muttered. 2 weeks later, following the results of the internal investigation, Thomas was terminated from his position. A dismissal could have adversely affected his future job search, so out of consideration, thanks to the president's kindness, he officially resigned for his own convenience. In the interim, I took over the manager's role until a successor was trained. When a junior showed promise, I transitioned to the client's company as a future successor. There had been no word from Thomas, and I was secretly worried about him. Years later, I heard a rumor about Thomas's whereabouts in the amateur baseball community. After wandering abroad for a while, Thomas returned home, seemingly in better spirits. He began job hunting and was hired as an administrative staff member for a local soccer team. His salary was less than half of what he made as an employee. Thomas also cleaned toilets himself because there were few staff members. He must have chosen to chase his dreams by letting go of his pride. By accepting his past as a benchwarmer in soccer, he found value in nurturing young talent. Being on the bench allowed him to see a world others couldn't. I believed there was a place for Thomas, a job that was meant for him to do.